Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I know I have been on a hiatus for a little bit, definitely longer than I was expecting. There's obviously been a few changes with me. If you know them, you know them. It's pretty obvious. But I've been putting out some new baddie meditations. I put out a new nightly recording for your relationship with food. And I wanted to hop on and say, hi, how are you? Thank you for being here. Okay. Um, I have about 200 plus videos on my channel. And when it comes to mindsets, the information is really not going to change. But I do think that coming on here and posting a video about things that I see people are struggling with or just clarifying on a few things is going to be useful. So, before we get into all that, hi, my name is Noel James. I'm a mindset coach that likes to specifically focus on relationships. Before we get into this video, remember that life is not happening to you, but happening through you. When you become the change you seek to experience, you're going to experience that change everywhere you go. And you are showing the world how to treat you based on what you believe and feel about yourself and what you believe about different areas of your life. If you want to create a change in those areas of your life, then it would be very wise to look at how you're identified, which is causing how you're showing up and how you're interpreting and perceiving things and responding to different aspects of life. And if you can change how you're identified, you're going to see that how you show up and the things that you attract in change to meet in this new way that you are now identified. Okay. I know that was a mouthful. But what I want to talk about in today's video is why changing beliefs can seem difficult sometimes. And we have to really take into consideration our mind, okay, and our nervous system. And something I've talked about on my channel quite a few times is the importance of doing something for your nervous system, like breath work. You could do EFT tapping. I like to go to float tanks sometimes. Even physical exercise is a really great way of stabilizing your nervous system. Now, the reason why this is important is because we don't just have beliefs from nowhere, right? And most of the time, our beliefs are there almost like a protective mechanism because it's how we know ourselves and how we know the world at large based on our previous experiences. Okay. And how this relates to your specific situations that you're finding yourself in is pretty important because, in my opinion, by the time we already create undesirable things in our life, there's already been quite a few things that have occurred subconsciously that have led up to this thing physically manifesting in the way that it has. Okay. And some of those things are really about coming into full understanding with yourself and realizing where your beliefs come from or why it may be difficult to shift or change them. Now, in the past few months, I did a workshop. I did two workshops. And one of the things that I focused on in the workshop, especially at the beginning, was you don't need to figure out every single limiting belief that you have. You can go in the direction of what you want to create and what you would need to believe about yourself in this area of your life to create that. But I do think it is wise to look back at the things you've struggled with historically or your previous experiences so that as you're adopting a new identity, a new self concept, you're adjusting your self image, you don't have things that throw you off because you're getting triggered or you're having negative assumptions, you're getting a lot of intrusive thoughts. So that's what I want to talk about today, those kind of more difficult areas to change and how you can approach that. Okay, so the first thing that we need to understand though is our mind is kind of like a record keeping machine. And this process, you can go about making this easier just by taking on beliefs, like shifting my beliefs is easy. I'm able to adopt new beliefs effortlessly. But I also like to take a realistic standpoint on this because if we're struggling with something, I don't think it's good to avoid it. So, yes, we can take on this belief that shifting my beliefs is easy and effortless and quick for me. But if you notice you're struggling, then you can make some adjustments to what you're doing so that it doesn't feel as difficult or you're not struggling as much. Okay. So when we think about our previous experiences or the beliefs that we hold up to this point, we have to remember and recognize that they are a byproduct of everything that we've been up in, everything that we have gone through to this point, right? And when you are, for instance, looking at relationships, let's say you want to create a healthy, committed, stable, loving relationship, right? Cognitively and consciously, it's very easy for us to say, oh, yeah, I totally believe that I can create a healthy, committed relationship, right? And I think that socially, it's a little bit kind of shied away from to say the opposite of that, right? So ideally, it can be a little bit difficult for us to be honest with what we actually believe, right? And so coming from that standpoint, that very belief right there, I'm able to create a healthy, happy, committed relationship. If that is not something that you've ever experienced, you grow up in a household where that wasn't something that you observed, and then you've had quite a few relationships as you were growing up and in your adult life that were not healthy, happy, or committed, then jumping straight to that brand new belief can make you feel a little bit delusional, like you're lying to yourself, like you're crazy. Okay. And I'm picking a very kind of simple belief to use as an example, but this highlights the problem that a lot of people struggle with, which is when they're changing their beliefs, they're feeling like they're lying to themselves, they're feeling delusional, they're not able to fully adopt that belief or feel confident in it and stable in a new state and in that version of themselves. We want to understand why, because if you can make slight adjustments in what you're doing, you're going to find that you're not struggling as much, right? And so anytime that we feel like we're lying to ourselves, we're feeling delusional, our mind is pushing against it, in my opinion, that is because, again, your beliefs are there kind of as a defense mechanism, right? And so essentially, if you've never experienced a happy, stable, committed relationship, when you come in and try and tell yourself, I am creating or I'm identifying as somebody that can create a healthy, happy, stable relationship, your entire mind is pulling on your previous experiences, your previous memories as evidences as to why that's not possible for you. And in a way, you're going to experience a bodily reaction that feels like you're in danger, right? So your mind can't differentiate the difference between what it is imagining and what is going on in front of it. So when you're trying to tell yourself, I have, or I identify as somebody that has a healthy, happy relationship, if you don't have that actual belief, you may experience feeling like you're in danger, right? And again, it's because subconsciously your mind is essentially saying, no, that's not true for you. That's not true for us. If you believe this, you're going to get hurt because historically and experientially, this has been your experience. Okay. Now, in my experience, okay, speaking of experiences, I went straight to brand new beliefs. Okay. And I had to do quite a bit of nervous system regulation activities to really stabilize in a new way of identifying. Okay. The other approach that you can take here, and something that you may notice that I did in my changing your relationship with food nightly recording, is going in the direction of growth. I'm starting to believe, I'm open to believing, I'm starting to accept, I'm starting to see that it's true. Okay. Any variation of growth typically helps your mind not push against this new way of identifying as much. And why? Because it's not as big of a jump to go from I'm not able to create a healthy, happy, loving relationship to I'm starting to believe that I can create a healthy, happy, loving relationship. Now, obviously, this isn't the end. Okay. We want to be at that space where we're confident and knowing, oh, yeah, totally. I identify as somebody that can create a healthy, happy, loving, stable relationship. Right. But the key to this here is if you can take more of a growth approach, you're going to see that your body and your mind doesn't resist it as much. Okay. You still need to step in with doing stuff like breath work or exercise, EFT tapping. I like to go to float tanks sometimes. There's tons of different ways to stabilize in your nervous system. You can even get professional help with it as well, too, even shifting your beliefs. Okay. But okay, you still need to do those things. But what begins to happen, okay, is you don't get triggered as easily. And as your mind begins to adopt this belief, okay, your mind's going to begin to search for evidences that support this new way of identifying. And remember how earlier I said, by the time you're already in an undesirable experience, there's already been quite a few things that have occurred that have caused it to manifest physically, right? The reason why is because your mind is always searching for evidences of what you believe. Okay. So even if you have somebody that you can create a healthy, happy, loving relationship with, if you don't hold the beliefs in your self-image and your self-concept to support that outcome, you're going to begin to subconsciously search for evidences of whatever it is that you actually do believe, which in turn will either sabotage the relationship, push them away, or create a really unhealthy, toxic dynamic, right? So when it comes to changing these beliefs, if you can go more in the growth direction, what begins to happen is your mind starts accepting this new way of identifying a lot more easily, especially as you're stepping in with nervous system regulation activities, and you begin to subconsciously search for evidences to support this new way of identifying until that becomes your new belief system and way of seeing yourself in this world and the results that you create in your life. Okay. And in my opinion, I think the growth approach is usually the better approach for people to take if you've had a lot of really negative experiences, just because it's going to be more sustainable for you. Can you go straight to new I am beliefs? Absolutely. But just take into consideration that if it doesn't feel good, or you're noticing that your mind is reflecting on previous experiences, it's because it's having a little bit of a hard time adopting that belief. Your mind's feeling a little bit in danger. And in a way, it's trying to protect you by showing you mental evidences of why this is not true for you so that you stop persisting in it, right? So you can persist through it, okay? But if it becomes too much, then the better approach could be taking a growth approach, okay? So you'll notice in all of my new recordings, pretty much, I'm going to be putting them more in terms of growth. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there as quickly. And in my opinion, again, you'll probably end up getting there quicker because you're not going to experience as much pushback. But be gentle with yourself, okay? Because again, if you have a lot of really negative supporting experiences to beliefs you no longer want to hold, then you need to be a little bit strategic and tactful with how you approach it so that you can adopt this new way of identifying in a way that feels good and in a way that is sustainable. And a key signifier that you're doing it right, okay, is again, the way you're influencing yourself, the way you're noticing things in your reality, the way you're relating to stuff is going to begin to change and reflect the identity or the new statements that you're practicing and inundating your mind with. Okay. When it comes to creating very specific results in your life, it's not that you have a limiting belief with a specific person, a specific dollar amount, a specific school, a specific career. It's more about looking at these concepts in general and what you believe about yourself in this area of your life so that how you perceive, respond, show up, and interact with this area of your life is different, right? Now, this is also important when it comes to mentally persisting in something, okay? And the other aspect where a lot of people have a hard time with persisting in a specific outcome is because they're getting a lot of intrusive thoughts, doubts, worries, fears, or they're materializing a lot of checking obsessive behavior. Let's talk about why that occurs, okay? So ideally, when we want to create a specific result in our life, that should already be something that we can normally entertain. It shouldn't feel too far out. It shouldn't feel like too far of a stretch. So for instance, this person really likes me. They're going to talk to me. They love talking to me, right? I shouldn't have to convince myself that somebody likes me. They're going to talk to me. They're going to reach out to me. It should be normal for me to mentally entertain and hold a knowing that, oh yeah, they totally like me. They're going to reach out to me. They're going to talk to me. Okay. If we're not able to hold that natural knowing, then there is something in contradiction with how we are identified with that experience, okay? And again, your mind's going to search for evidences of what you actually believe. How this occurs, again, in my opinion, is first mentally and then physically. So if you're trying to persist in a specific result, but then you're getting all these intrusive, wonky, weird thoughts, your mind is searching for evidences of what you actually believe. It's bringing up memories, intrusive thoughts to tell you essentially why this desired outcome is not possible for you. And if you choose to persist through that and notice that you start getting obsessive checking behaviors, now it's going to begin to manifest into your behaviors. And you're again searching for evidences as to why this thing cannot occur for you. In my opinion, the better approach would be, okay, I'm not able to normalize this specific outcome that I want to create. And I'm noticing I'm getting all these intrusive thoughts or checking weird obsessive behaviors. What do I need to believe about myself or this area of my life to where this is a normalized experience for me that I can just mentally entertain and allow unfold? If you can take a step back and adjust your belief system and your self-concept and your self-image, then you should find that entertaining a desired outcome should feel like a normalized experience that you can pleasantly expect, right? And so anytime we're getting intrusive thoughts or weird checking behaviors, again, in my opinion, that means that something in how you're identified is in contradiction with this experience that you want to create, okay? And a lot easier of an approach to go about this would be to adjust your identity so that thinking that somebody likes you or they're going to call you or commit to you isn't feeling delusional or crazy to you, right? Like, think about that. Why is it crazy for me to believe that somebody's going to call me or text me or want to commit to me? Okay, what does that say about what I believe about myself? Why is this person so special? Okay, and I get it, they might be cute, whatever, that doesn't matter. Okay, it's all about how you're identified. So if you want to create these experiences and sustain them, we need to be able to normalize it and see it as something that we can easily create in our life. Okay. All right. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. Thank you for being here. I love you all so much. I know I haven't been posting and I've still been gaining subscribers. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Okay. Bye.